In this video, let's cover the art of the possible for internal review within docusign CLM. Currently, docusign offers 3 methods for internal reviews. The first method involves adding a comment preview screen. Now, this is not an editable document. This is what docusign CLM calls the document preview screen. But what you can do is highlight the text and you can mention someone or a group. So let's mention a task group in this case, and it will be our legal task group. We're going to ask them to please review this section of the document. Now, what's the benefit of this? Well, for one, you never have to leave the CLM. Second, this will stay and can be assigned as a task. What that means is the legal task group will receive an email. It will show up in their task queue. They then are able to pick it up and work on it, all within just the CLM. So let's post this, and what you'll see now is the comment. Where is the history of this comment tracked? It is tracked over here in the comments feature. Now, it is not currently tracked in the full document history. So if we take a look here for the full history of our document, what we'll see is that it doesn't show up. So if you wanted to put this in a report, if you wanted to pull this with the full history, that is something that is lacking. But there is another way to get something in the history. So we'll talk about that in a second. Let's move back to our document. So you have the comments feature, you have the ability to, inside the document, add a comment and assign a task. You also have within the document the ability to open it in Google Docs or Office Online. So in this case, we can use the Google Docs @mention feature to bring in other organization members to handle reviews. This means the document is transferred to the Google environment. Much the same way with Word Online, the document is opened in a Microsoft environment, and then you can @mention members of the organization that are part of that environment. So internal review can happen in both of those. It can happen inside the CLM. And if we want greater tracking, then we'll go to the third method, which actually makes an entry in the history. So let's go ahead and look at the third method. And that third method is to actually route the document. So there's really only 3 types of routing inside docusign CLM: sending for signature, sending for external review, and then the rest are all internal reviews. You say, well, send for legal is a different review. Yes, it is, but it's an internal review still. It doesn't step outside the CLM. What it does do is, just like internal review or even the wet signature, it can take it out of the requester's task queue and direct it to a different internal group's task queue. So that's really what's going on for purposes of internal review. In the legal case, it actually redirects it to a step that looks just like this. And then legal has to act on it. Now, what that means is the document leaves the requester in that regard, and it is basically blocked at the legal review stage. That's fine if you want a stepwise approach, meaning only one group can work on it at a time. After legal's done, it can get routed back to the requester, or legal can have other functionality. In the internal, what I like to call ad hoc approach, you can have more than one internal individual or group look at the document at the same time. So this internal review supports a parallel processing of multiple individuals and groups looking at the document, whereas sending for just a legal review, well, that's going to put it in the legal task queue, which is perfectly acceptable. but they're not going to have other people outside of that legal task queue get notifications or work on the document. So let's show the internal review, the ad hoc internal review approach that DocuSign CLM offers. You're not going to mention people, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually select them. So here we have a select internal review, and we're presented with DocuSign's choose user step, or users in this case as well. It can be configured to only allow for the selection of one, but it can also support many. And this is the power now of DocuSign CLM when you want to track who is selected. So here we have legal and legal division 1, and we have members within our organization in those groups. So now what's going to happen, an email is going to be sent to each group, and someone in those groups now would come in and work the document in parallel. That makes it nice, and this is again inside CLM. But the bigger key is this is tracked inside CLM. So let's click complete. And what's happening now is CLM is sending emails to each of those groups, the members of those groups. We can look at our tasks queue, and we will see that for purposes of the internal review, something now is in my task queue. Now we picked 2 different groups. I'm part of one of those groups, and that was the legal. So this is now inside the task queue, and I can pick it up and act on it. But if someone else were to come and take it, or can I reassign it? Yes, 100%. So you have full flexibility if you're part of that group to be able to do the reassignments. So let's pick up and let's take a look at this. Now, this language here can change to what the needs of the business are, but at the end of the day, I'm working with this, and when I make my comment, which is required in this instance, it will then be added to the history. So the full history will show that this user approved it, and the job can wait to return to the requester, or it can go through if you set a configuration setting saying, well, only one of those 2 need to approve. So it depends on how the configuration is completed, and if it's set to say, well, no, you have to wait for everyone to approve or reject, and you can handle those paths as well, then you have a very flexible way in which you can handle internal reviews. As a follow-up, there is another video that I've already recorded that I'm happy to have folks take a look at. And what this video shows is, in effect, the ability to have more than one person in your document at the same time. So depending on the requirements of the organization, you have at least 3 options to consider in terms of how internal review can happen inside the DocuSign CLM. Thanks.